friend recommended using the app Hipcamp to schedule some of our stays. And we've used it a few times now. I wanted to share our experience with using the app and some tips to get the best out of the app. I'm TK.
And I'm Earl.
Here are our top 10 tips for using the Hipcamp app. First, pick your location. Where do you want to stay? Maybe you just want to be somewhere close to home, so you could search for what's nearby, or you can put in the search where you want to stay.
Yeah, somewhere like if you just want to take a quick trip with the kids or something, just find out where you want to go.
Tip number 2, set your budget. Have a rough idea of how much you'd like to spend at Hipcamp. Keep in mind that whatever is on the listing is not going to be the final checkout price. They're going to add in usually like cleaning or whatever fees. It's very similar to AirBnB if you've ever done AirBnB, where they'll show the listings, but then there'll be some fees added on before checkout. Tip number 3, decide on your deal breakers and set your filters. Just like you would for a house, decide what you absolutely have to have for your stay. Because if you put your ideal settings for your stay, you're probably gonna end up with nothing. And you can keep taking them on and off. It's just like a typical filtering system. But for us, like, it has to be pet friendly. We have to have at least water and electric. We can be flexible on the sewer.
Yeah, water and electric are our big ones, so that's usually what we filter with.
And I would recommend not filtering by price, because for some reason when I did that, it said there were no listings available, and when I took that filter off, it showed up again. So I would recommend just looking through it after you've done the filtering process.
You can select filters like if you want to be down by the lake or if you want to be in the woods, if there's certain activities that they have. So there's some pretty cool filters that you can apply to the map as well.
Tip number 4, use the map. You might type in something in the search, type in something like Dallas, Texas, and you think you're gonna be right in Dallas, Texas, but it will take all of the surrounding places you could stay, which could be miles and miles out. So sometimes I'd be like, oh, this is a great place, and then you'd take a look at it and be like, that's way too far off of where we're trying to go. So a lot of times when we use Hipcamp, it's to get from one area to another. It's like an in-between, it's a transition. So make sure once you've done your search for the location and you have an idea of what you're looking for with the filtering, that you tap on the map and you look at where they actually are. You can actually tap on the little, what is that, like a teardrop thing?
Yeah, where it's located.
Or you can scroll through the listings at the bottom and they'll be highlighted on the map as you're looking. Tip number 5 is to actually read through the listings. Listings are pretty nice. They include a description from the host. They include the amenities that are available, so you can double check if they have what you want. If you had some of those interests that Earl was talking about, you can double check to see that they have some of the things that you'd like to participate in. And there are reviews. Unless they're brand new or don't have any reviews, so that we usually try to have a place that has at least one review, so we have some kind of idea. It's not one of our tips, but I recommend leaving a review when you're done to help out your fellow campers or viewers for their stay. Number 6 is to actually choose the listing. Now, there are 2 different options for listing. There's instant book and there's just a regular booking. So I think when I've chosen listings, I haven't really cared if it was an instant booking or not most of the time, because we try to book things in advance, and so we have some leeway. We're not like, oh my gosh, we have to find a place. So I have accidentally picked some instant booking places, which is nice because you automatically are already booked once you tap on it. But for other places, once you tap on requesting a booking, it doesn't guarantee that you actually have the place. There may be a little bit of back and forth with the host. There's actually one case where the host rejected us because he was no longer doing it, but it was still listed on the app for some reason. So maybe have a backup plan just in case, and just keep in mind that once you've settled on something, you still have to have approval by the host if it's not an instant book. Number 7 is to stay in contact with the host as needed Some hosts will have very little conversation with you. Others will want to know things like, hey, what's your rig size? Which of these things do you want? Sometimes there are add-ons required, like if you're an RVer. There's one time where there were different options to choose with the listing, and we actually needed to do the add-on with the electric and water, and I was confused. So we had some back and forth with the host, and I actually had to like resubmit. So there's messages right through the app. A lot of times you'll be kind of like talking back and forth right through Hipcamp, but sometimes they will request that you contact them through their phone number because they don't check their Hipcamp messages as much. Like we had one stay that was actually also an RV camp, so he said I don't check Hipcamp all the time because he's usually just checking, you know, through his normal contact information. So just be aware and ready if they have questions for you, if they want to clarify anything, to make sure you're ready for your stay. Tip number 8, review things like check-in and rules the day before your stay. Or it could be sooner. We recommend at least the day before. Hipcamp is good about sending an email to you right before the trip, and it'll include things like the check-in, check-out, the specific address, because they'll hide the specific address at first just for privacy for the host. And they'll also give you the rules in there, which I think sometimes is on the listing, but the email will just spell out everything you need to know. If there's any kind of code you need, that will be in there. So make sure you read the email carefully so you're prepared for your stay. Number 9, alert your host to your estimated time of arrival. Usually we do it the day of, but I think sometimes they'll ask us before then so they can prepare. Sometimes they have to open a gate for you, sometimes they have to prepare the spot for you. This is something that I always have to remember because at a lot of RV parks, I don't know, like half of them you can just show up.
Yeah.
Some of them do ask for an estimated time and I'm like, oh, okay. But for Hipcamp, I think pretty consistently they've wanted to have an estimate so they know and can prepare for you. Finally, number 10 is have the host contact information ready. As we said earlier, sometimes you message through the app, sometimes, especially right near the end, you want to be texting with them or potentially call them. So make sure you have that ready so you're not fumbling for it while you're on the road. A lot of times they'll want to know like when you're an hour or a half hour away.
Yeah, so they can be at the location, because sometimes they manage multiple locations, and so they'll have to drive potentially like from their house over to the Hipcamp spot.
Yeah, so you'll want to give them an estimate of time and when you're actually right there. They usually want both.
If you've ever used Hipcamp, please be sure to let us know, and if we've missed any tips that you think are very important to know, please leave them in the comments so we can help everybody else who watches the video as well.
And keep an eye out because we'll be doing some videos on some of the Hipcamp places we stayed, and later we'll be comparing Hipcamp to Boondockers Welcome and Harvest hosts.
Thank you all very much for watching, and have a great day. That little girl cuddling up with me the entire video. She's all sleepy and cold.